Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Inside Spurs channel. Happy Tuesday morning. Hope everyone's all right. Hope everyone's okay. And they're always enjoying a good week. In this video, we are talking quite a bit of transfer updates. We've got a chat around from Swedish reports surrounding Lucas Bergval and maybe a new deal coming in place for him. We're going to be talking about from the same source around interest from Kulesfki, maybe going back to the Serie A. We're going to be talking about Timo Werner and his future laying elsewhere from Tottenham being confirmed yesterday, as well as Liam Delap. We've got the loan roundup. We've got loads to get into and talk about. It's a really action-packed and proper pack show, this one. Morning, Dragon Steve, Jake, Spurs, Sonia. How are we all? Let's jump in and let's start with Lucas Bergval, the man on the thumbnail himself, the guy who I think this season has had a real great season. A real great season. So let's talk about it first and foremost. So, like I said, it came from Football Direct, a Swedish source. And this is translated. It says, new dream deal in the works for Lucas Bergval. Lucas Bergval is already one of Sweden's highest paid footballers. Now, Football Direct can reveal that his spiral continues to skyrocket. Tottenham wants to take action. And inside this, they go on to say that Spurs want to extend his contract. Now, just to give you a heads up, his contract already expires in the summer of 2029. So he's still technically, even if he didn't sign a new deal, he still has 4 years left on his contract. You know, for a 19-year-old this season, he's played 40 times across the Europa League, the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the EFL Cup. He's played over 2,000 minutes in that time. And, you know, for a little while, some of his minutes were the odd 10 or 15, maybe the odd 5 or 10. And now they really sort of propelled itself to being 60 plus. He's been ironically quite durable, which has been something that we truly needed. You know, when we were having 12 to 13 injuries for periods of the season, you know, he was one guy that was, you know, still fit. And it was, you know, it was unfair really on him to even play the level of the amount of minutes that we needed him to, because, you know, it's demanding playing in that midfield. And it would have been nice every now and then to say, oh, you know, we're going to get you some rest here. But you know what? He really has stepped up to play this season. I think he's been fantastic. You know, I talk about Archie Gray and how, you know, Archie's going to be a rock star going forward for us. Lucas Bergval will be the exact same. You know, hell, that could even be 2/3 of that midfield going forward. They've been phenomenal. They really have. And, you know, when people talk about this season, maybe not being the season they all wish for and all hope for, and maybe it was a season where, I mean, technically the season could still end on a high. We know that, but you know, just on the surface right now, the season's not been great. No one's going to deny that. But, you know, you can look at a season and break it into small bits. And, you know, some of those smaller bits are Archie Gray looks better. Lucas Bergval looks better. Jed Spence emergence. Odebear that looks like there's a real talent there. It does show you some stuff from this season. Can this season be salvaged? You'd ironically be surprised. Yes, it can be. You win the Europa League, it salvages the season 100%. There's no denying it. You know, there'll be some people that go, yeah, but Andy, I want to finish 5th in the Premier League and get Champions League. And I'm like, well, you know, if you do that and get Champions League and I finish 15th and win the Europa League every year and get Champions League football, who do you think is going to be having the better year? This guy. So, you know, he's been brilliant. He's still going to be massive towards the end of the season. You know, we talk about Frankfurt on Thursday. Preview will be out tomorrow, by the way, for Frankfurt. He's going to be massive. You know, I thought when you watched him against Southampton and you watched his energy, you watched his press, his technical ability, every week he seems just to improve more and more and more. Can you imagine where he's going to be when he's 21? Now, I'm talking about a 21-year-old is still a very young footballer, you know, and he's a very young person, but even in football, it's still young. Imagine where he is at 21 compared to where he is right now at 19. He's not long ago turned 19, by the way. It's like 2 months ago as well. So he's not exactly like an old 19-year-old, which is a weird thing to say, but you get what I mean. So I love Lucas. I think he's going to be brilliant. You know, if we tie him down to a longer contract, it only helps us going forward. He's still got 4 years left on his deal. There is no panic. There is no need to worry about his deal. But in reality, he's probably quite severely underpaid. So that's why it's good to give him a pay rise because he probably deserves it. I know that Daniel probably won't like that too much because it goes against his little spreadsheets and what have you. But he definitely deserves it. He has been one of the shining lights of this season and very much deserves it. Morning, Mixie, Jazz and Gons. How are we? So look, there is that on old Lucas Bergval. Moving a little bit over, we'll do Timo Werner. I've got a tab list and you can barely see anything because there's so many. But Fabrizio Romano saying yesterday that Tottenham will not sign Timo Werner on a permanent transfer once his loan deal expires this summer. And I don't think this is surprising. No one should be worried by this. No one should be surprised by this. I think, let's be real, I think the 6-month loan deal was actually solid. There was some good stuff that came out of that. But I think, it's one of those ones where you take that win. It's like playing blackjack. You've won a couple of hands. Hey, well, you're up. Walk away. Don't chase, that extra big one. Don't chase that one more. You've won. Walk away. Happy days. You've done what you needed to do. We then extended him. Was it an ange signing? Was it a club signing? It's kind of irrelevant. I put it on everyone's hands and I put everyone's feet that this probably, on paper made sense, but in reality, it didn't in the end, I think the nice thing really is the emergence of, seeing that Odegaard has talent. It has kind of made us not need to use him. I know people got upset and they wanted Mikey Moore to play 3,000 minutes a game, and I get that. But also, it will give some of those younger players now more minutes into next season when they're even more ready for it. They're physically even more ready for it. So it is what it is. I actually think Timo Werner is probably a really, really nice guy. He's kind of one of those guys that you'd love to go to the pub with. He'd probably be a great addition to a pub crawl and what have you. But when it comes to football, it's just not the one. And also, he's on big wages. It's a squad spot that you now free up. Let's think going forward as a more positive sign of things. He will now free up a squad spot for someone else. Okay. I talk about Sergio Reguilon leaving in the summer. That will free up another squad spot in the Premier League. If Forster leaves, it frees up another squad spot. All these those squad spots are really finite. And they're really, really important to max out with people that you're going to be using more frequently. So, look, I think that's a good thing. I'm interested to see what they do with the attack next season. If they do, I'm coming on to Kulesfki in a minute, but if they do see Kulesfki as a more central player, then, well, from there, then let's think about it. We then need to get another attacker in. And if Richarlison moves on, what does that mean? So there's a lot of, I think it's a bit of a transition next summer with some players leaving. We've just talked about Richie, Werner, Reguilon, Forster. What happens with Ben Davies? What happens with Basuma, Bentancur? I don't think there's anyone else that's leaping out to me right now to say that they're going to leave. Well, obviously Romero, that's another one. He's been touted potentially. So, I think it's really, really interesting for the transition of next season. Milton, mate, how you been, bud? Adis, how are we? So, look, interesting to say. Sofian, you want Kulu to say? Well, let me come to Kulu. What a transition that was. Sofian, it was like a game of volleyball. It just popped up to me, and I've just leapt over the net to spike it. I can't because I'm absolutely tiny in height. But someone gives me a little booster, I'll go do it. So let's talk about Kulesfki, because again, Football Direct, the source for the Lucas Bergval contract talks have come out with something. It was 40 minutes ago. There you go. It was only came out 9:45, and it's it was talking about this, and there's other sources talking about it as well. And it says that the Swedish national team player himself is interested in moving back to Serie A, where he's been linked with the clubs such as Milan and Napoli. It claims that Kulesfki does not see any problems with representing a club like Milan, obviously having played for Juventus. It's very interesting with Italian football. They really don't, for as much as Italians are very loyal to Eric Edmond has become a scout for Aberdeen. That's just come up on my script. Fair enough. Well done to Eric. As if you know Eric Edmond, become a scout for Aberdeen. Good on him. When it comes to Italian football, a lot of the Italians are very, very loyal to the league, but they're not actually that loyal to clubs. It's very interesting. I don't really understand it, to be honest. It goes on to sort of say that scouts from Manchester United among us believe that he could move during the summer window. Kulesfki is someone who can lead the summer. I think that a lot of players are frustrated with how the season's gone for Tottenham. When I see them play, he has been one of the best, if not their best player. They don't want to lose him unless a really big offer comes in. I know a couple of Italian clubs have been looking at him, AC Milan and Napoli. It's a league and a country he knows from his time with Juventus, so a return might suit him. I think he'll be interested in a move like that to Napoli or Milan. If the opportunity arises for him, it's definitely something that I think will be feasible, even if Tottenham don't want to let him leave, because he'll continue playing at the highest of levels. He's got a contract in the summer of 2028. Okay, so let's remember that. He's got a contract until the summer of 2028. I mean, look, you're more than welcome to come make an offer. He's going to cost you absolutely a crazy amount of money. Last season I was like, oh yeah, I probably would take I'd probably take this for him. And now I'm like, I think that figure probably has doubled in that time. I don't think Milan can truly afford him. Napoli with the Kvara money, and if they sell Osimhen, yeah, probably would. But then it's like their owner is really difficult to negotiate, and our owner is really difficult to negotiate with. It'll be who blinks first, and we go, well, he's under contract for 3 years. We don't need to blink. So if you want him, stump up the cash. If you don't, can you go away? So he won't be leaving, in my opinion. He won't be leaving. Like I said, if he is leaving, it's because we've been offered a stupid amount, and I mean stupid amount of money. I'm trying to think of a comparison that would give us a good amount to work with. I mean, he's got. Let's do this. I want to get his figures right. I want to do old Dejan a bit of a justice, not an injustice, when it comes to his stats for the season. This season, across all competitions, he's got 20 goal contributions in 42 games. He's got 10 goals, 10 assists. Oh, lads, if you think you're getting him for 50, 60 million, 40 to 60 million, good luck to your Chiefs. He's not worth anything near that. It'd be worth way more than that. I mean, 20 goal contributions when you're a Premier League footballer. I mean, in the Premier League himself, he's got 11 goal contributions in 27 games. It's pretty solid from a right winger. Yeah, he's going to be going for crazy money. Neither team will be buying him. We'll move this one on. He's going absolutely bloody nowhere. I thought you thought I was 6'10". The irony that that's already a foot above me in height is worrying. Sometimes I see my friend at the gym, he's 6'6". It's just like, what the hell is that? So look, there's that. Rob, how are you, my friend? Yeah, 50, 60 wouldn't get you Kulu. Wouldn't get you Kulu. Not in today's market, it won't get you Kulu. I mean, if they're talking about Hugo Larsson for like 60 million, Dejan Kulesfki, 3 years left in his contract. He's not even hit his mid-20s yet. Yeah, that guy is worth way more than 50 to 60 at Ease personally. Steve reckons about 80 plus. I'd probably say it's in and around that mark, genuinely. Because we don't want to sell him, we don't need to sell him. We're going to raise. It's like when we talk about Tyler Dibbling being worth 100 million. They've obviously done that because they want to make as much money as possible. But the irony is they'll probably sell him because they got, they're going to be, in terms of revenue, the revenue is going to massively drop going into the Championship next season. They'll probably cash in on him. When it comes to Dejan Kulesfki, we do not need to cash in on him. We don't need to sell him. So he will be going for 3 years left in his contract. Come on. He's going for crazy money. Anyway, moving on. Still got so much to talk about. This is mental. Let's talk Liam Delap. So, Liam Delap, Ipswich striker. I think super talented is the way I would sum him up. Super, super talented player. I for a while thought because Manchester City have that buyback clause, I thought Manchester City would cash in, buy the buyback clause back, and there you go. You got Haaland and Delap. But then I guess they also signed Marmoush, and maybe they think Marmoush will be a striker alongside Haaland potentially. But Chris Wheeler has said that Manchester United make Liam Delap their number one strike target. They're also interested in, all the other crazy strikers in Europe, but apparently Delap is their number one target. City are unlikely to trigger his buyback clause, but have a 20% sell-on fee. And obviously, Man United face competition from, most teams in Europe. Okay, most teams in Europe. So I like Delap. I do. I do like Delap. I think he's a really, really solid player. Obviously, homegrown, he has, I think, for the most part, I wouldn't say he's carried Ipswich. It's not fair to say, but he has been one of the main reasons they have any chance of staying up. Like the main reason. I don't see Spurs getting him. Okay. Now, that's not because we won't go for him. I think Spurs would probably offer the money that it would take to get him. But he will probably look at your Man Uniteds, for example. He might even look at a Chelsea. He'll look at an Arsenal. He'll look at an Arsenal and Man United and go, I'm easily their best striker. He'll look at Chelsea and go, I could probably rival Nicholas Jackson for minutes. And I'm getting European football next year. They're going to pay me big money on my wages. Man United, I don't know if they're going to get European football. Arsenal obviously will. But then will Arsenal go the Gyökeres route still? I know that's still being touted. Liverpool. Why do I think Liverpool would go for Delap? And then again, it's like, you spent 80 odd million on 70 or 5 million on Nunes. You still got Jota, Gakpo, Diaz. I don't know if they truly will. I think they might be more looking towards their right wing position and preparing to replace Salah in the coming years. So maybe not them, but Arsenal, Chelsea. I mean, there was talk that if Isaac got sold, because there's talk of Liverpool being for Isaac, that Delap would be the ready-made replacement for Newcastle. I could totally see that. Villa, no. I mean, there's chatter about sort of lower league teams in the Premier League going for them as well. I don't see that. So I think he will get his move next summer. I don't, like I said, it won't be Man City. I always thought it might be, but it won't be. I just don't see it personally for Spurs. I don't know what you guys think. Would you rather Kane for 100 million or Dibbling for 100 million? Yeah, I'd have Harry Kane. Harry Kane's the best striker in the world. Typical Spurs, we love to sell the best players instead of buying good enough players to build a solid team. What's your opinion on Cherky? Cherky confuses me, right? And it's not because I don't think he's a good player. There's obviously serious talent. And when you watch him, he's one of those that sort of doesn't fit the mold of professional football nowadays. Like listening to pundits recently saying how robotic the game is, how micromanaged the game is. He's kind of one of those that sort of fits outside that mold. He gets you up off your seat. He does things which you go, how did he do that? Now, he's going to do some things that are going to drive you absolutely bonkers, but he does things that you go, wow. But there's always talk about some attitude issues. I don't know if there is or not. I've not looked into it. I'm not going to say there's attitude issues because I don't know the guy whatsoever. But I just don't get why teams aren't clamoring to get him. There's something not right there. I don't know if you guys know anything, but, Sol Kane brought Solanke. The drop-off is always crazy. I mean, how many world-class strikers are there in the world? 2 or 3? Maybe 4? We sold one of them. We weren't getting the other 3. So there was always going to be a drop-off. Man United destroyed Delap's career. After this was, I'm near a limit. If we sell Kulu and to bring in more teenagers, I'm done with football. There you go. So look, there's that. Right, come on. Big loan roundup. There's some cracking stuff that came out of this loan roundup this week. And I'm going to start out in Belgium, actually, because even though the result isn't what Westerlo wanted, Alfie Devine scores. Alfie Devine scored the last goal of the game to equalise for 2-2 between Westerlo and OUD Heavily Leuven. That's a name. I mean, they're above them in the league. I mean, they're a drawing specialist, OUD, with 15 of their 32 being draws. Vuskovic didn't actually feature. Vuskovic must be. Oh, he's on the bench. Well, should have started Vuskovic. Would have won. Simple as that. But look, Divine scored. Divine equalised for them, which is great. Again, Alfie came off the bench, so maybe you start these players and maybe you win some more games. Leeds United drawing 1-1 away to Luton Town with Manor Solomon starting in this game. Manor got 87 minutes. He did miss a bit of a sitter to basically take the lead and win that game. It was a ball by Dan James, flashed across the box. He's at the back post, and it sort of just bobbles a little bit as it comes. And as you expect, as it's bobbled, he sort of sliced it over the bar. But that's massive. I mean, for Leeds, that's massive. Leeds were, for the longest of time, leading the championship by multiple points. They've only won one game of their last five, whereas Burnley have won 4 of their last 5. Sheffield United won 3 of their last 5. And now they're sitting in third. They're actually in the playoff spots. For so long, I was like, oh, look, they're in the they're winning in the title. They're doing this, they're doing that. Now being 2 points behind Burnley, who are top, and Burnley were third for the longest of time. I'm just going to say, be worried, because that's where Leeds United finished last season and they didn't win in the playoffs. Okay. They didn't win in the playoffs. And I mean, 4 losses all season, but still not in the top 2 is bonkers for them. Stoke City, 1-1 draw away to Preston. I think they'll be disappointed with this result, Stoke, because looking at the stats, every stat you could imagine goes in their favour. Shots on target, possession, corners, everything, pass accuracy even. Obviously, Ashley Phillips playing the full 90 again, but that was a big draw for Stoke. A win would have been absolutely amazing for them. A win actually would have taken them up to 17th. They're actually in 20th at the moment, 2 places above the relegation zone, and by 2 points. Their goal difference is a lot better than the bottom 3. But, you know, with Plymouth winning, Cardiff City and Luton both drawing, they needed to at least get a draw. And they did, to be fair. They did, but the 2 teams above them got a win. So it's crazy down the bottom of the championship. Absolutely mental. West Brom, though, losing 1-0 at home to fellow playoff team. Sunderland, well, it was fellow playoff team. West Brom are now outside the playoffs. Bristol City and Coventry have gone above them in that time. They're still 3 points behind 5th, with a goal difference is the same as 5th. So there's no need to panic for them. But Will Lancashire coming off the bench and playing like 10 to 12 minutes. I mean, they're 21 shots, only 3 on target. That's not good enough. 64% possession. They need to snap out of it and maybe give Will Lancashire some minutes, is all I'm going to say. Leyton Orient, 0-0 draw at home to Wigan Athletic. This will be one they're disappointed about. Wigan had 1 shot, and it wasn't on target, and 33% possession. Leyton Orient had 16 shots, 4 on target, 67% possession, and 16 corners, and drew 0-0. Obviously, great for Josh Keeley. He had the easiest day in the world, you know. Kept a clean sheet, faced 1 shot, wasn't even on target. But all I'm going to say is, put Jamie Donnelly on the bench and see what happens. And the other thing is, you gave Jamie Donnelly not even 20 minutes. You're 0-0. You're controlling the game. They're not going to create anything. You gave him 20 minutes. Just saying. Matthew Craig, by the way, did actually finally play for Mansfield. It's been a while. I hadn't seen this at all for a long time, but he did actually play. He played 74 minutes in a 2-1 loss away to Huddersfield, Huddersfield are fighting for the playoff spot. Mansfield Town will be really mid-table, nothing going on, but it's good to see him actually getting minutes. Espanyol winning 4-0 away to Rayo Vallecano, who, that's a huge result. Vallecano fighting actually really before this for a little bit of European football. Espanyol down in the relegation zone. Well, in and around that, sorry. A 4-0 win is massive, for the goal difference and the points total. I mean, the goal difference now is 9 better than 18th, which is the first of the relegation zone, 8 better than 19th, and 41 better than bottom, which is Valladolid. So massive, but Valise didn't play, which is a shame. Betis drawing 1-0 away to Barca. Barca should have won this game by a billion goals, but they didn't get the job done. And Cardoso did play. He was solid. You know, he defensively put in a shift, but Barca should have won. And finishing off with a little bit of good news, and I don't often talk about him, but I want to give a little bit of a shout to Aberdeen and Alfie Dorrington. And for a guy who I think went there, having had a bit of an injury through the summer, hadn't really played a lot of football going into Aberdeen, an SPL team who I think at the time when he joined, they were second or third with Rangers. They're now fourth behind Hibs as well. He went in there, and I think we were all just sort of hopeful: is he going to get some regular minutes? Is he going to develop? And he's playing regular minutes. He's sort of starting to nail down a starting berth. They won 1-0 in the Scottish Premiership away to Ross County. It wasn't an easy game, which is surprising, if I'm honest. But that's back-to-back wins now for Aberdeen. They're 1 point behind Hibs in third. And he kept a clean sheet. And anytime you keep a clean sheet, if you're a defender, that's all you bloody dream of, and he's done his job. So I thought I saw breaking news, but it wasn't Spurs. We're okay. But he's having a really solid loan spell there. And I think next season, I think he'll probably get a loan spell into the Championship, if I'm honest. I think Will Lancashire, loan spell next season, probably doing some help. The Lees, we have question marks over. Will he get that loan spell? Will he potentially be moved on? Sean, how are you, mate? Big D, how are you, mate? D-boy. Aussie ange hater. Interesting. I think those will probably get on loan. Solomon, I think his form's dropped off a little bit, but I think that's kind of because Leeds have dropped off a bit as well. Last minute giving away of goals, drawing with Luton when they're second bottom, when you're fighting for the title was not really good enough. Yeah, it's not been a really good spell for Leeds. I think Solomon struggled a little bit with that. Who else? I think Jamie Donnelly has a potential shout to see if he is going to be in and around the first team next season, especially at least through pre-season, seeing what he has on offer. Keeley, I expect to get a loan spell in the Championship. He's been brilliant for Leyton Orient, by the way. Like, without those two guys there towards the bottom of the table, I expect him maybe to get a Championship loan spell, which I think would do him so good. I think that would be massive for his development. If you think about like James Trafford, for example, Leeds Man City, touted as a really up-and-coming next England goalkeeper, struggled with Burnley in the Championship, but he goes down with them. They've conceded 12 goals this season. They've played 40 games. Even if they conceded one goal in those 12 games, that's 28 games without conceding a goal. So that's just crazy. So that, I think, could be a Josh Keeley kind of avenue, really highly touted goalkeeper, and obviously not for England, but a really highly touted goalkeeper, minutes in the Championship, quite regular minutes in the Championship would be massive. Could do with him getting a loan spell, more like a Joe Roden, Man or Solomon, where he's going to be playing regular minutes for a team that's fighting for something positive, over Ashley Phillips, who's played for relegation-bound Plymouth and relegation-bound Stoke City. It'd be nice to get him regular minutes, at least for a team that's fighting for the playoffs. We tried that with Will Lancashire, and then West Brom went and signed Adam Armstrong on loan as well, which they're struggling for goals at the moment. Maybe Lancashire might get some minutes soon. I hope he does. But it's the same with like Dane Scarlett when he was alone at Ipswich. Played 180 odd minutes in half a year, which isn't enough for their development. So as much as we do get good loan spells like Brian Hill at Girona, obviously, I know he's done for the season, but Brian Hill for Girona was a good loan spell. Solomon, Roden last year. It'd be good to get some more of those over what we're sort of seeing from like your Will Lancashires and things like that. Yang, Kevin, thank you. I literally knew I was forgetting someone. Yang was the other one. 0-0 draw at home to Cardiff City. He did start. Let me just see how many minutes he played. He played 61 minutes. Tough day at the office. But, I mean, again, with QPR, it's like they probably should have come out of this game thinking that's a missed opportunity. I mean, Cardiff right now are in the bottom three. Okay. QPR are 5 points clear of them, 6 places above them. There is 7 points separating 22nd and 14th in the league. So that's what the Championship's like. It's just so condensed, and 2 or 3 wins in a row will have you rocketing through the league. But also do a Blackburn where you lose 5 games in a row and you start falling through the league. So instead of being a team that's fighting for playoffs, you're now nowhere near. And you need a miracle if you're going to get into the playoffs, So it is one of those sort of things. Blackburn are closer to Derby County than they are fourth in the league. The top four really have just sort of flown. Again with Sunderland right now are fourth. They're sitting 8 points behind second. Leeds have dropped off in form, but if another team does the same, Sunderland, who there is some all right form, they might even get in there. It's a long shot, but you can't rule it out. Sunderland are going to want to be chasing Leeds anyway for the third position. So even if it's just playoffs they play sixth instead of playing fifth. So they'd play Bristol City over Middlesbrough. So yeah, it's interesting, but we do need to get players probably on better quality loan deals. If I'm honest, that's the big thing that I sort of take away from this year. Get players on better quality loan deals. It's good they're getting regular minutes. I'm not denying it. Ashley Phillips playing regular 90 minutes is great. It would be nice if he was playing for a team that was more positively fighting for things over than, looking over their shoulder every week. So I'm going to see what they do with Ashley Phillips actually next season, because this would be a year and a half that he's had on loan in the Championship. Obviously, he had half a year last season with Plymouth. Now, obviously, a year this season with Stoke. Is he ready for a next step? Is he ready for Premier League football? If not, he has to go to one of the big boys in the Championship that are going to be fighting for promotion. I can't take him getting another loan spell for another relegation side, because what's the point? Is he ever going to play for us in that case? All he can get is minutes at a team that's 20th. So, for me, we need Phillips getting regular minutes next season. But Dorrington getting minutes in the SPL. SPL is a really solid league. I think he might be on for a little Championship loan spell next season. Who else? Alfie Devine, obviously. Alfie's a really, really interesting one, actually, I want to talk about quickly. A guy that's playing in the Belgian league, which is a top 5, top 6 league, maybe top 7 at worst. He's obviously played in England. He's played through the pyramid a bit as well. What do they have? They'll have a look at him probably, you'd hope, next summer through pre-season, but would he go out on loan again, or is there a situation where he might get moved on permanently? I'm not saying you will or won't. I'm just thinking out loud. Who else is out on loan that I want to think about? Yang's an interesting one as well. I think they want to see Yang in pre-season. But again, it's another one. It's like, Phillips following the same trajectory as Carter Vickers. Oh, no. He's actually done really well at Celtic, to be fair. They weren't very good at the weekend, losing to St Johnstone, who I think bottom of the league. But I don't think it's the first time they've done that in like 30 or 40 years or something like that. But Matthew Craig, he just needs to get healthy. He needs to play more. He needs to play more football because he's just not healthy. And he didn't really get the minutes that he probably wanted this season. George Abbott, yeah. There's another one I've forgotten. There's so many people out on loan that I just forget about them all the time. Come on, Notts County, quick one. Let's have a look there. Oh, 1-0 loss away to Colchester. Oh. Okay, Abbott didn't play. That's why they lost. He didn't play. He wasn't even on the bench. Right now, they're sitting still in the playoff spot. They've got a nice little buffer. Colchester, though, this was a bit of a 6-pointer because Colchester are the first team outside of the playoff spot. So it now brings them 3 points behind Grimsby in the last playoff spot and 6 points behind Notts County, who are the team above that. But also, Notts County with a win would have been 2 points behind Bradford City, who are top of the league. Between Notts County, who are in 6th, and Bradford, who are first, is 5 points. That's how crazy some of these leagues are. The Premier League's been crap, in terms of titles already won, relegation's pretty much already sorted. Top 4 is the only thing that actually people care about in terms of, what will happen in the league. And these other leagues, like the top 3 in the Championship, are separated by 2 points. Birmingham have won the title in League One. That's boring, but playoff spot gives you something else to think about. But at least in League Two, there's just so much. You know, have a look at the Conference or the National League. There's like 10 teams that might win the title. You know, who's the troll? I don't see who the troll is. We'll need Divine if miraculously get Champions League football because of homegrown quota. God, that's what I mean. The academy has been so poor for so long. I've talked about it. The academy has been so poor for so long that, you know, if you minus out Harry Kane, who else has come along who has impacted the club for at least more than a few years of real quality? If Harry Winks is the best you can name, then the academy's not been good enough. When you think about Chelsea, Tomori, starting centre back at AC Milan, Tammy Abraham won the Conference League and was fantastic for Roma. Conor Gallagher starting week in, week out for Atletico Madrid. Mason Mount. So it's a lot there, and we've got Harry Winks and Skip. It's just not enough. It's not good enough, you know. Abbott will go to bottom championship side. Don't see him being part of the first team at all next season playing. I think Abbott will get a good loan move. I do. Even a Jamie Donnelly-esque loan move, a team that's like a solid League One side. It's like what we did with Divine actually last season when I was doing the one of the loan roundups. Is what I talked about with Alfie Divine was at Port Vale and the regular minutes he was getting, the fact that he was, playing so well, moving him on. Obviously, then he goes to Plymouth to join Ashley Phillips, you know. So I can see maybe Abbott getting that kind of loan spell. I was wondering if they would do it with Donnelly this year. But did Donnelly play minutes for Spurs this season? I feel like he did. I don't know why. Madueke is the other player. We let him go. Well, Madueke is not even academy trained in the end. He doesn't count as an academy trained for Europe, which is bonkers, you know. Get rid of the troll. I don't know who. I do not know who you're talking about, Chief. Skip was balling has showed so much potential as Norwich loan spell, but then I don't know what happened. I don't think what helped is the turnover that we had at the manager position. I don't think it's helped any. It didn't help a lot of those sort of players, you know. I don't think it helped players like even like Ryan Sessegnon. He's got stability at Fulham and he's scoring goals. You know, the guy that we bought from Fulham that I was super excited about, the change around and managers didn't help. I mean, the one thing I would say is he's played some football this season. Didn't do that at Spurs. I mean, people will put that down to Ange, which I think is super lazy, and it's just not true that he didn't play for Spurs because of Ange and Ange destroying his hamstrings. There was other managers here at the club who he didn't play for, you know, but he's playing there at Fulham, you know, so it's there's a lot I think went wrong over those years, you know. I think a lot of players had their growth stunted, and it is what it is. But they also changed a lot of the academy. Obviously, Paratici has a huge part in it, but they changed a lot of the academy to bring through better quality. They do. I mean, you know, we were excited by Mikey Moore. We're excited by, you know, the Lancashires and people like that of the world. They're coming through because they changed the academy structure and they actually decided, hey, it'd be good if we had, you know, at least an average quality academy, let alone a great one. And then there's obviously a lot of talent coming through. I mean, Olusesi scored in the Europa League. So, you know, I think I think he gets a championship move next season, by the way, on loan, Olusesi. We're just going to be having a player every single loan club in the end, aren't we? So every week when I do a loan roundup, it's just like the quickest loan roundup because they're all playing one another every single week. Vuskovic will be a part of the first team squad, supposedly. Yes, that has been said. Donnelly played some in the cup matches, but that's it. But he's played for Spurs. If he has played for Spurs, he was only able to go on loan once more, if you know what I mean. So that Leighton Orient move would be that loan spell. If he didn't play for Spurs whatsoever, you could then move him on to another loan spell. He can only play for 2 clubs in one season. Hence why when Dane Scarlett came back off of his loan spell, when he was at... Where the hell was Dane Scarlett on loan? Oxford. Gibbo. Shout there. Oxford, yeah. He, because he played minutes for Oxford, as soon as he came off the pitch, I think it was a substitute appearance for us. Who the hell did he play for this season? Do I have to do this? Dane Scarlett. No, it was Oxford. Yeah, it was Oxford. Yeah, but in both situations, because he's played minutes at one of those championship clubs, he can only then play for one more team. And as soon as he stepped on the pitch for Spurs, that was him done. He can't go elsewhere. He has to stay at Spurs. So there you go. There you go. Will Paratici be staying with us? I don't know. I really don't know. The move with Milan fell through, but I think one thing with Paratici, he might look at it and go, because I think this is quite common. He'll probably look at it and go, well, I can only step foot in a club once my thing is up, which I think is in the late part of June. He gets July and August. The transfer window has already started and open. You can't then change things, implement your style into the recruitment, the academy, all those things. It wouldn't shock me if he moves on in September. After the window's done, he joins a new club, then he gets multiple months leading into the January transfer window. That wouldn't shock me at all. That wouldn't shock me at all. It's your channel. I'll go do it for you. Steve, you got to help me, though. You got to help me. There doesn't seem to be a pathway for youngsters at Spurs. We never make decision one way or the other in regards to giving them minutes or moving them on. I would say, though, my counter argument to that, D-boy, is let's be real with the academy. For the most part, were they good enough to be playing for a team that was fighting for the Champions League spots and fighting for Premier League titles and Champions League finals? I'm going to be real. I don't think they were good enough. You might have had the odd one or two, maybe, but I don't think I could put it down to the majority not being good enough. And the difference is now, I think the quality coming through the academy now, there might be one or two that we've in the past have been really super talented, but the rest have not been good enough. Whereas now, I think for the most part, they're all really talented. Maybe not all of them, but for a lot of time, they are massively talented. Like, Mikey, crazy talent. Luca, crazy talent. Even like Lancashire. Lancashire was brilliant last season. So I think there is super talented youngsters coming through. It's I think it's how you nurture them now. I know that people want Mikey Moore. Like I said, people want Mikey Moore to play 3,000 minutes every single day for Spurs. But it's how you nurture them along. It's like when we had Gray and Bergval. People wanted them to play from the first minute, every single minute, then from then on. It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes having good quality players around them will develop them even more, Melier should be... he looks a talent, Kevin. He looks a talent. We haven't really had any players until the last two seasons. Well, like I said, if you remove Harry Kane, which Harry came along a long time ago. Harry's in his 30s, right? Came a long time ago. And even then, he had a lot of loan spells that a lot of them were, I'm going to be honest, they were crap. They were rubbish. He didn't do well. Andros Townsend had, 9 loan spells or something? But if you subtract Harry, right, let's push him over there. Look at that big chunk, let's say from 2015 to now. So in the last 10 years, how many have come along and been a regular in the squad? Have a look at those names and sit there and think, were they good enough? The answer is no, if I'm honest. Their answer is no. I don't think they're good enough. I can like a player, but also not think they're good enough, Mostly with sell on decisions been right about the youngsters. We've had 6 players that broke into the first team, only 2 that we would say is class, and that was King and Kane. You got to think a lot of those youngsters that we sort of brought in, they came from other clubs like Bergval and Gray, But I cannot talk about those 2 players enough. Those 2 are going to be so unbelievably good in the next couple of years. Or can you wait? Well, we haven't let Prashi go, mate. I think Prashi, if you guys aren't aware, Prashi is still actually working as a consultant with the club. I hope we all know that. He is still having an impact on this club even today. He's not allowed to officially work in that role, but he's allowed to be a consultant. So, like, for example, he can set you up a meeting with Juventus director of football over a deal for Vlahovic, for example. So he can still get involved. He just can't do the actual deal himself. So he's still been a part of the club. He's still been helping. He's just not obviously been doing all the details of stuff. I agree. Some Spurs fans think all the youngsters will make it at Spurs, which is not the reality. No, it's not. It's not. It really isn't. There's so many players who, if you think of some of the other big boy clubs who have broken through, they've looked all right for a bit, and then they've been moved on because consistency wise, they're not going to be good enough long term. Opinions on Cherky. I talked about him earlier, Eric. Cherky, I don't get what that situation is all about. He's a super talented player. Gets you off your seat. He doesn't fit the mold of the micromanaged football, robotic style of play. He's someone that will do things out of the norm and out of the blue. Why is nobody, snapping him up? I don't understand that deal. That's why I'm confused. I think he's a player, and there's talk about he has attitude issues. I don't know if he does. I'm not going to say he does because I don't know anything about it. But something's not right, Madueke. Again, you think about that, it's one guy who we didn't bring through. So it's how you bring them through as well. But, Marcus Edwards is playing in the Championship. And that was the guy that was probably one of the bigger names that came through our academy. Went off to Sporting, had some success. Now he plays in the Championship. He'll be in the Premier League next season because Burnley should come up. But again, think of all those years. If we can only on one hand count of all the real talent that might have come through, Madueke is probably the best player. But the drop off from him to the next guy is quite alarming. The next two guys are playing for second bottom in the league, who are going to get relegated into the Championship. And the other guy plays in the Championship. It's just not enough, is it? I don't know, Ghosted Matt. I don't know, mate. I remember someone saying Archie's little brother might be a bit. Oh, Harry. Yeah, my Leeds United friend supposedly quite rates him, but I don't know enough about Harry Gray to say that he's great or not. Also, by the way, this one bit of hair is driving me insane. Like, flatten it. Got horns. Okay, I got a horn coming out of my head. Gonna need a haircut. Cherky looks good, but could be another Ndombele. Well, you never know. You never know. I hate to admit it, but I do find it impressive how Lewis Skelly and the one who broke into the Arsenal squad this season. But this is the key thing, right, about the Arsenal squad. They spent a load of money, right, on stacking up the squad with senior internationals who have been around for a while. Declan Rice is a £100 million player. Odegaard came through as a bit of a younger player, so I'm not actually going to name. I mean, you can say him now, but I wouldn't have said him at the start because he came as a more of a younger player. But now, obviously, one of the better midfielders in the Premier League. You think of Raya's had multiple years now in the Premier League, Spanish international. Havertz is a £75 million player. Saka now, obviously, I know he came through the system, but now obviously he's a fantastic right winger. There's a lot of players in that squad. I'm not naming some of them because they don't deserve to be named. If you build out a squad of experienced internationals and then you sprinkle in the odd youngster here or there, they're more likely to succeed. We, on the other hand, decided we're going to bring loads of youngsters in and let's pray they work. I mean, Vuskovic technically hasn't signed for Spurs yet. He joins in the summer. So we need to be better at that. We need to find that balance between load of youngsters, too many experienced players, find that sweet spot where you get some of each and it'll work. A perfect example of French league, Stephen, look at Ousmane Dembele, how poor he was at Barca, and now look what he's doing at PSG. French league can't be the truth. Hey, PSG knocked out Liverpool, the Champions League. Let's not knock them. They were phenomenal in the Champions League against Liverpool as well. They lost the first leg, which I still don't understand how they did because they were magnificent. And in the second leg, they turned up, did the job, and knocked them out. So I seem to watch PSG frequently, and I absolutely love watching them play. They play some magnificent football. Kvara, Barcola, Dembele, obviously, Desiree Doué, Fabian, Vitinha, João Neves. There's so many amazing footballers at PSG. Vuskovic world class, absolutely. Like manager, some players suit current clubs, absolutely. No, they don't have that leeway at all, Kevin. So look, some really good stuff about those youngsters. Absolutely love that you all joined me today, by the way. Big turnout to watch me talk some nonsense about football. Obviously, we talked about Bergval contract talks. We talked about Kulu interest from the Serie A. We talked about Liam Delap and the updates surrounding rival clubs and interest in him. Obviously, did the loan roundup. Timo Werner not being kept next season. That's been confirmed. He is back to Leipzig in the summer as well. So thank you all so much for joining me this morning. Please go and enjoy the rest of your mornings, afternoons, evenings, wherever you are in the world. And I'll speak to you all tomorrow to preview for the Frankfurt game. Take care, everyone. Peace.